Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Connor, and this is Connor Talks Games, your one-way stop for all things game-related, gacha-related, and/or just whatever thing is going through this messed-up mind of mine. However, today we have another special guest. Introduce you, the one and only Mr. Christopher Mattarelli from Project Cyclone, longtime acquaintance of myself. Chris, why don't you say hello to the nice people?
Hey, yo, it's nice to be referred to as a special guest.
Chris and I go back a wee bit. We were classmates back at Clark. I believe we both were part of the old guard at Becker. I like to joke the last amount of people before it got shunted. Chris came on later on at Project Cyclone when we needed more level designers. He's like, hey, I'm looking for stuff. I'm like, I can hook you up. And he came on Gothic Knights, and it's kind of just been like that ever since. So thanks for coming on board today, Chris. Do you want to just take a minute and kind of tell people a little bit about yourself, what you do, what you enjoy, that type of thing?
Yeah, of course. Like you said, my name is Christopher Mattarelli. I am a level designer, game designer, and producer as well. I like to sort of joke that I'm a jack of all trades, master of some, because I have put my fingers in a lot of different pies over the years, whether it be like art or programming as well. But really my focus has always been design. And really, I think I've always just had a big inkling for the creative space for art as a whole. So that's why I really narrowed down on level design for myself.
Did not actually know that your other specialization was in production. I'll have to keep that in mind. If I ever die and I need you to take the reins, that'll be the day.
Indeed, yeah.
Pass over the torch and all that jazz. All right. So there were a couple of things you mentioned there, but your main focus has been on level design. But I am just kind of curious myself. What made you choose to focus on that particular area, development and design, in comparison to anything else, really?
So it's a little strange. I originally got into game development to be a programmer, and so that's what the classes that I took when I was at Becker College during the 1 year that it existed while I was there. It was all programming related, and for my first game studio, I wanted to branch out a little bit. I've always wanted to do production. And I did end up getting an opportunity to do that on my first game studio. But as the years went on, as I joined different studios, I found that I actually really just enjoyed making the levels themselves, working on them, and just analyzing different levels from other games, seeing what worked there, and porting that over to my own projects. So that's how I ended up in level design specifically. But I have enjoyed pretty much every other role, every other hat I've worn over the years, whether it be programming or production.
So your main specialization is in the design, but you do have experience with a little bit of the programming and production as well.
Yeah, I'd say like when it comes to programming, I'm not the best when it comes to like I suppose, vocabulary of programming. Like I know how to like type out. I know like the structure that each of the lines of code should look like. I know that it has to end with like a semicolon. I know like all this other stuff. But when it comes to like knowing the functions, like knowing those specific things, I have no idea, right? Like there's an entire dictionary worth of functions that I have no idea about. So that's that's pretty much why I swayed away from programming, was because there was just a lot of stuff for me to learn, and as time went on, I just didn't enjoy it as much as I did with creating environments with level design. I actually had like a similar question for you, because you have done game production for as long as I remembered, but did you come into university wanting to be a game producer, or did you just like naturally find your way there?
So this is the funny part. I actually also wanted to do programming when I first started out at Becker. It was freshman year, in like that first semester, because it was all online, we I remember the professor like it was yesterday. He was an awesome guy. We programmed in Python Dungeons and Dragons mechanics to use against the DM, which was the programming teacher at the time, and he took a very strong interest in catering to certain people's interests, and there were like three kind of major groups of thought in the class, and he kind of split it off and did all of that. Now, the the flame died second semester when I had a professor who not only sucked, it was atrocious across the board, but I'm like, I can't take this anymore. So I just figured, it's easier to yell at people than it is to really do much else. So I swapped over to a production class, and honestly, I haven't really built back since. Although the self-teaching has been, ugh.
Yeah, no, trust me, I get it. When I first actually jumped into a production role, I was actually looking to either be a programmer or a level designer on that team, but the game director, he really needed a producer because he couldn't handle everything himself. And since that was a field that I wanted to eventually learn, I ended up taking up that mantle. But it was really weird because I didn't know too much about game production when I first started. And once I got into the groove of things, I sort of felt like a bit of, am I allowed to swear on this at all? I felt like a bit of an asshole, just like being like standing atop my ivory tower, commanding the rest of the team members to like do work while I observe their progress. I didn't like, I wasn't doing as much work as the rest of the team. And so I wanted to take a bit more of an active role in the project. So I did eventually end up helping out with some of the art assets. But yeah, no, it was a very awkward experience for my first production role, at least for the first couple of months.
I think like especially for just new producers in general, there's like this gracing period where you're first starting out and you gotta come to terms with, well, I'm not necessarily going to be able to say that I programmed this really cool boss fight, or I designed this level in a really neat way, or I did the art, or even that one particular audio piece, or honestly even just like play tested this particular section. Although I know a lot of people, that's like their main track for promotion, is usually you go through the quality assurance route, followed up through the thing on top of that. But I mean, you're still telling people, all right, this is what we got to do in the given moment. We got to organize like this, or it's tracking down and solving issues so that the team can work at efficiency. And I mean, getting people to play nice, especially when they come from different disciplines, is not a skill you learn overnight. God.
Yeah,
The first
that's definitely
interaction.
something that's forged in the flames, that's for sure. Yeah.
I did not get as eloquently put when it comes to interacting with designers until I got thrown in the deep end at Clark with the Worcester Art Museum project. That was awful.
I don't know
Ugh.
too much about that project, but I have heard that it was a nightmare. I've only heard terrible things about it, that so much money was wasted on it. I don't know. A lot of it could be rumors, the stuff that I've heard, but I think most people came out of it unhappy with it.
I mean, the professor didn't like it. I didn't like it. The freaking people didn't like it. It was a whole thing across the board. But let's circle it back to you here, because you are the guest of honor and whatnot. So now that we've kind of gotten a good idea as to your background, what your specializations are, kind of like what made you want to do what you want to do, um, what is your favorite game when it comes to level design? Is there like
That
a
is so tough.
I asked the same
um,
question with Pablo. It was the same exact thing.
it is, yeah, because they're like, it's difficult to describe because there are so many different games that cover different genres, and they all have their own like unique goals as to what they're trying to set out on. And even like within the same game, every level has its own goals that it's trying to meet. I remember I was listening to the episode with Pablo Acosta last night, and he was saying the exact same thing with zombies maps. You know, like it's difficult to just compare them just because sure they're all part of like the same game and even the same game mode, but every map has its own identity, its own things that it's trying to get across to the player, and it's difficult to compare them because of that. I I think my favorite example to go to though is Remedy's Control. Uh, that was a game that I got my hands on in university, and I remember in our level design class we ended up having to write essays on levels, and I ended up choosing the introductory portion to Control as one of my essays. And it was just genuinely so exciting to go through that entire first portion of the game, and just seeing all the different techniques and fundamentals used so brilliantly, um, in that thing. It's very strange, because if you're unfamiliar with level design or with art concepts, um, playing through that first level, I mean, like it's interesting, right? But it's not necessarily boggling or the such. But when I was analyzing it, they do so much so well with guiding the player very, very subtly just through the colors that they use, the lighting, and just the shape of the level. Really, really taking a lot of advantage with that brutalist architecture to guide the player. So I'd say like Control has some of my Control is my favorite example to point to when it comes to great fundamentals in level design.
Okay, fair enough. I will totally pretend like I know what that game is.
Yeah, it's I don't know if you're what's SCP, is that it? Like that whole internet thing that goes on where like there are all these different creatures.
Protect.
Yeah, it's basically SCP, the video game, made by the people who made Alan Wake. You know, so it was a really well done. Honestly, I don't think that there's necessarily a development studio out there, AA or otherwise, that I would think to bring that environment or that world to life better than Remedy has. It was genuinely a fantastic experience, especially going in blind. Highly recommend it for anyone who's either interested in SCP or just interested in level design in general. You know.
Duly noted. Well, you heard it from the professional himself. You got to check that out. All right. So, given recent developments with the industry being how it is, and just kind of continuing to go through that, I figured it'd be fun to ask a question that might be more or less what everyone gets asked at some point down the line. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, you had the opportunity to work at your dream company. Where would you work, and what would your position be?
I mean, like, I feel like you don't even have to ask me this. I feel like you already know the answer to this, because it's same thing as Pablo. It's CD Project Red. CD Project Red is very much a dev studio that I've adored and put on like such a massive pedestal since I first learned about The Witcher 3. I don't know. Okay, did you have an Xbox 360?
I did.
Okay, you know how like on the dashboard in like the top right there was like this little application place where they would post all the new game trailers and the such, right? Or like commercials for the new Xbox One.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of like Nintendo Channel on the Wii. But I remember I was in elementary school. I had just gotten my Xbox 360. I was being introduced to this world of games that I had no knowledge of, right? And I remember seeing the Witcher 3 trailer for the first time. It was that one like cinematic trailer where he's like saying that famous quote, about if he were to choose between one either or another, he would rather not choose at all. And really cool cinematic in general, but it introduced me to both the Witcher series and to CD Projekt as a whole, and ended up falling down like a rabbit hole with that dev studio. And ever since, I've just been a massive fan of them. I'm not sure, did we go to I remember in PAX 2024, CD Projekt Red did a talk on their work on Phantom Liberty, that DLC, because it had just released then. Did we go to that talk together? I don't even remember.
Yes, and I still have the shirt.
I still have my signed shirt with all their names hanging in my closet, proudly, as well. I never put that shirt on anymore. And I'm kind of upset because a couple of my friends were able to get some of their LinkedIns, and even one of them got one of their Discords as well. The CD Projekt members that were on the panel then. And I'm a little bit jealous of them, I'll admit. But yeah, if I got to work at any game studio, it would 100% be CD Projekt Red. Especially like after watching that talk, because they did spend a good amount of time on the level design of the DLC.
Pretty sure for some.
Yeah. And I remember specifically they were talking about like the placement of a column, for example, and like if it was just like a centimeter to the right, like how does that change both the player's behavior, the emotions that are supposed to be felt from the player, just the general flow of the level, right? How does just a tiny thing like that, moved a tiny amount, create this cascade of differences in when it comes to the player's reaction to the level? And I remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, these guys get it. Like, oh my god, because this is the stuff that I've written essays about, like
they get it.
They get it, yeah. Because I would spend like hours going through online resources to try and find more in-depth analysis on levels, and a lot of them are just really, really surface level, unfortunately. So it felt like, I don't know, I in the past I would pull my hair out trying to find good resources, but hearing that talk, seeing that like, oh, there are people who this company of people who believe in the same stuff that I do, who incorporate those same decision processes when it comes to making and whiteboxing their levels. I don't know, it just felt like I was being affirmed, I suppose. But I don't know. How about yourself? Would you go to CD Projekt Red, or
my own, like where I would hypothetically work if I was at a dream company? That, oh god. I mean, Halo is like my all-time favorite game franchise, and I would love the opportunity to work at Halo Studios, even if it is just like the most minute of positions. It's definitely on the bucket list to work on something AAA related. I think Hoyo was another one. I'm a very big fan of their game development philosophy. Although, God damn it, Chris, you're asking me questions now. What is this bullshit? I'm
sorry. I'm trying to incorporate you more into it.
No. I'm enjoying hearing what makes other people tick. It's the main reason I like having guests on the show in the first place. But I guess I'll kind of throw my 25 cents in while we're in the CD Projekt Red conversation. So I'm not as well versed in the arts of level design, but something that did stick with me, like you were saying, is I think it was the director for the DLC. When they were talking about it, they, like, development wise, the sheer amount of artistic detail that they have put into that DLC is absolute insanity. And in many ways, it was, in comparison to when the game, like, finally got good, blows it out of the water by, like, the widest of margins. And the fact that they're located in Boston right now with their Boston office, bro,
Dude,
I could
don't even
you
get
could
me
take
started.
50 years off my life right here and now if it gives me the chance just to work at that place, like even as a janitor.
Honestly, yeah, I've been like, man, I don't want to toss them under the bus because I love them so much, but I've been throwing my applications at their doorstep for the past 2 years.
I beg,
Trying to like get anything. Yeah, please, just banging on their doors, but yeah, no, genuinely it would be fantastic to work for them. Actually, you know what? I got a bit of an oddball one here. We've spoken a little bit about my fondness for Fallen London in the past. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Fallen London, it's a browser game, which basically it takes place in this really like comedic, horrifying London that is underground, and it's a very like dark comedy type game. It's all text based. It's a fantastic world. I think that's what I enjoy so much about the game is it's just the world of it. If they were to ever make an open world or just like a Fallen London game where you can walk around it and there were actual levels to it, I would be there so fast working at Fail Better Games. I would like kill for a position for that because I love that world so much.
Picturing you killing somebody was not on the bucket list for 2025, but I think I kind of want to see it now.
Maybe we can fit it in for 2026.
Oh, definitely. That's like, what? God. I feel so old. If they told me, hey, Connor, you're going to be graduating into possibly one of the, no, not the worst hiring situation for games since the video game crash of the 80s, I would say, well, it's my turn to be an adult anyways. What else is new?
Yeah, it was like, I mean, I don't remember what the situation was when we were at Becker, but I just remember the situation just continuously getting worse and worse, jobs wise in the games industry as the years went on. Because I remember like senior year, every single day we would walk into Game Studio and I would pull up the news, and every single day it would be like so and so development studio was laying off 30 people, 50 people, 300 people, and it was like, it was crazy the amount of layoffs that were happening in such a short period of time. There was also an event that was being run where this lady who was a representative from Epic Games, she was doing a presentation online as to how to get hired at Epic Games. And we checked out her LinkedIn after the fact, and then the very next day, it came out on the news that Epic Games had laid off like, I don't know, I think it was like 500 employees. And first person we check, we go online, we check to see that lady who was doing like the hiring event the day prior, it was no longer listed that she was working at Epic Games. And that was like, I think the thing that really solidified it for the rest of us, just like how bad the situation was just that. Like, I mean, how ridiculous is that you do a hiring event for your company and then the very next day that you get fired, like that's insane. It's I suppose if anything it's just depressing and very much demoralizing for anyone who's trying to get into this industry, Yeah, I think that voice or that noise sums it up.
I mean, you spend 4 years of your life studying, doing internships, getting projects, doing game jams, portfolio pieces, just the whole 9 yards. And when it's like you're going into an industry that's ever growing, record profit margins every year, and it's like really is one of those dream jobs where it's you get to create awesome things that you can be proud of, even if the work hours are absolute insanity. And then,
Yeah.
it's Microsoft is on like what, their fifth or sixth amount of layoffs in the games division. Sony closing
Yeah.
down studios, indie, while we are in a renaissance. It's like, even they are throwing out, and the competitive pool right now, it's just impossible to compete with everything. And I think, especially, there's only so many ways I can like spin a word or just improve my resume before it's like I'm just being beaten out at this point because they have the experience and I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that this is the case, but it really just does feel like entry level positions are not for they are not meant to be like entry positions for people who are new to the industry. They're just for people who are experienced in the industry, but the company doesn't want to pay them as much. That's basically just what it feels like at this point. Um, a lot of these entry level positions, I don't know, they either like ghost you or you just get rejected right off the bat. And it's like, man, I'm going to so many different people in the industry for advice, for help on my resume, on my cover letters, on my portfolio. And no matter like how much work you put into that stuff, just not seeing any return, it really does suck. And once again, I'm not in these companies. I can't. I'm not in these hiring managers' heads. I'm not sure as to what the decisions are. But as a whole, not even just in the games industry, but like you see this across the job market as a whole. It's just it's really bad. I mean, they had that recent jobs report, right, where it showed that there were more people looking for jobs than there were actual jobs available in the job market, which it's crazy. And trying to get a position in this environment, it's extremely competitive. But even beyond that, we're also dealing with ghost jobs as well now, where companies are putting out false jobs to. Yep. For those of you who don't know, ghost jobs are jobs that are put out there to make a company look like they're growing, right? But they aren't actually looking for people to join their company. So they
You
just put out
have
applications for that.
the faintest idea how I don't want to. I don't want the feds knocking on my door, so we'll just say demoralizing it is to see a job position that has been left up on a game website, and you know who you are, you certain AAA company that does that. I know who you are. I've applied many times, and I never even heard back. And it
Yeah.
just they don't fill it out. They don't get hired. But I mean, even with all the networking, and I really think I've been blessed to have such meaningful conversations with a lot of people. But it's also like, man, how much do I have to really do just to even get an interview at this point? Honestly, an
Yeah.
interview would be peak. And I remember being very happy for you because you actually got to at least have that experience with the 2K project, with their internship program.
Yeah. Yeah. Which unfortunately didn't come to fruition, but at least that I knew that I was like in some sort of a hiring process, because the majority of the time, I don't even know if my application is even being seen.
I mean, yeah, just in general, having a degree in interactive media design and studying very very hard and putting in the rounds and talking to people and going to the events to try to network has effectively been as bad as effective as trying to swim when you have 500-ton weights strapped to your waist while you're also trying to carry about 6 elephants and you're in the deepest, most darkest abyss you could possibly imagine. Can you do it? Well, you're going to need something short of an act of God to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And networking is really just so key to getting not only in this industry but any industry. But at the same time, it's like you do a ton of networking, you go to all these events, you speak with all these industry professionals, and you still don't get a job out of it. You know, so like I remember when we were at Clark University, I would always get very frustrated with some of our peers who would just spend all day playing Overwatch, you know, and not actually working on any projects themselves. But how can I like look at them and tell them like, hey, you need to be putting in this work to get into the industry when you do put in that work, it's not getting you there. It's not like getting you close even, you know. You're running up against the same brick wall that you would if you hadn't done any work, and it's frustrating, but if anything, it's depressing, you know.
I mean, I want to say that hard work does definitely pay off in the end, but like, man, society. But let's you know, we're already on like this somewhat depressing topic, so I'll ask you this question that I was planning on saving for a little further down, but how are you still sane? And how do you maintain your bright and cheery disposition that you're known for, Chris?
I'm gonna be honest. This is the first time learning that I've been keeping up a bright and cheery disposition.
It was partly sarcastic.
It's not easy, that's for sure. It's staying sane, especially since now that I do have a job. That's now that I have a job, I've had this job for over a year now. But having a job while also trying to break into the games industry has been very difficult to balance, to juggle, really, because this job does require a good amount of time. I've spoken with you about this before, but like the commute itself is an hour and a half, so I'm spending 3 hours on the road every work day, and then there's the actual work time. So by the end of the day, I'm left with not a lot of time to actually work on any like projects or more importantly any applications. You know, I'm only able to get out maybe 3 applications a week, which is like, that's how many I would get in like, I don't know, a day when I didn't have a job. So not only like are my applications just not getting where they need to be in terms of like a response from the company, but like beyond that, I'm also not able to send out as many or put as much time and effort into them as I used to. So I don't have any good advice at staying sane, because I'm still figuring that out myself. Just because of how awkward it is to jump into this industry. I can tell from that you're feeling the same pain.
Well, like on one end, you know, I'm running the games department, and I got like interns and people to manage on top of the game project, and helping Sam out with all the other stuff, and on top of applications, feeding myself, paying rent, and whatever the hell else comes to mind. And honestly, it's gotten to such a point where my hobbies that I normally would like to enjoy have been getting more and more difficult to partake in.
Yeah.
But I feel the main sort of thing that has kept me grounded, especially because I'm in a weird situation where, as a producer, I didn't have a lot of opportunities for game jams. Having, you know, this Project Cyclone experience has definitely, you know, it made me want to keep doing it, in spite of the fact that it's mostly volunteer. Because it's still experience. It still shows people, like, hey, I am grinding, even though I legitimately feel like I'm going to pop a blood vessel if I keep doing that. Which I feel like I have to do just to get noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. And it's, I mean, hey, at the very least, you've got a lot of challenges that you face that you're able to overcome, that you can list in an interview when you get it. But beyond that, it's even when you're outside of university, it is so important to be working on projects. Just to have something that you're working on. Not only to show to companies that you're continuously working on your skills, but really just to keep it fresh. I remember when I first graduated, I didn't work on anything, right? All I was doing was applying to jobs, and that's it. And when I did eventually jump back into working on projects, I was so extremely rusty. You really do lose a lot of that if you don't keep it up, if you don't keep up with the grinding. And I imagine that, like, even for a producer position, like that's still the case. Those skills that you have for accomplishing, your duties, like that can go away if you don't keep up with it. So it is really good that we do have this project that we're working on. But yeah, no, it's I've said it a bunch of times now, but yeah, you really do have to work on projects all the time.
Getting people to work without pay has been the biggest hurdle I have probably ever encountered as a producer so far. I'm gonna be frank, because, man, yeah,
Yeah.
it's something. But honestly, I mean, the best you can do right now in the situation is just kind of keep trucking. But let's let's see here. All right, so let's circle back to just the personal questions real quick. But so we got a honestly, you kind of already answered this with the dream company question, but I'm still going to ask it, and the answer is probably going to be the same. But if you had the chance to make your own game with whatever the hell budget and anything you ever wanted in it, what would you make?
Okay, so you're not ready for this. I've so of course over the years I've had quite a number of game ideas that I've wanted to work on if I had an infinite budget and infinite time to work on it. Um, I've always had this idea, very large game where I've always loved the idea of hunting monsters, right? The problem is I don't like Monster Hunter, the game. I find it to be a little bit too, I suppose, cartoony for my taste, or a little too disconnected from what I was aiming for. So hear me out when I say this. A monster hunting game where you hunt down sea monsters with a sailing ship.
How you doing that, if you mind me asking, like as far as mechanics are concerned?
So I basically imagined something akin to like Assassin's Creed 4, sailing, but you're hunting down sea monsters, and then I don't know, sell their parts for money, crafting new weapons to use and the such. Um, and I think really a lot of it comes down to I've always really enjoyed thalassophobia, the fear of the ocean, right? That's how we got to the project that we're currently working on. In fact, is just my love of the fear of the ocean. So I think having a thalassophobia game where you're hunting down some of that stuff is just it's a fun thing. I think, especially since the gameplay loop with Assassin's Creed 4 was just so much fun in general. I don't know if you ever got the chance to play it, but let me tell you, sailing your ship and firing your cannons at a fleet, an armada of enemy ships, never gets old. It's always a ton of fun, with the movement of the ship as well. And I think adding that fantastical element could also be fun to it as well.
The game that comes to mind, it's a feature of it, but it's not like the main focus. Is Sea of Thieves. There's the Kraken fight, and there's also like the Megalodon
Yeah.
that could casually pop up. So, I've always had this boss idea actually for that, where it's a Leviathan-based monster where your ship suddenly stops, but like, the jaws of the Leviathan start to come up from underneath the ship, and the idea is it has, like, the vestiges of past sailors it ate start to kind of come up out as, like, ghosts or something, and you have to fight them and then, like, blast your way out before it closes and kills you.
That is fucking awesome. That sounds awesome.
It's like, I don't know, I think my main complaint with the sea monster fights in that game is it's like, Kraken, it slaps you and it sucks you with the tentacles, and it also wraps around the ship, but that's, like, about it. I mean, your ship goes slower due to the ink, and the Megalodon is literally just, oh, gee whiz, it's coming right at me. Cannonball. Go. Not, like, super crazy and specific. I think Skull and Crossbones also has a sea monster fight, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah, we don't we
don't
forget that exists.
Ubisoft, you done goofed, but
yeah, I feel like that's something that you could repeat on we'll just put on repeat, I suppose, because I don't know how you really nail the nail on the head with Assassin's Creed 4's ship gameplay, right? It's so much fun. It gets so many awards for it. And then they're just unable to replicate it, or even come close to it. I don't know. I don't know about the behind the scenes for Skull and Crossbones. I imagine it must have been a nightmare for the devs to bring it out, especially in the state that it came out in. Especially if we look at, like, you know, similar situations with BioWare's Anthem, for example. I imagine that I imagine that the devs had a difficult time with the game, and I'm sure that it's not the game that they wanted either. Yeah.
Where my beloved Mass Effect series, how they went renegade on your ass.
Yeah, it was depressing is really just the theme of this call. I wasn't expecting that, but I suppose that's just the case. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry?
Our half-hour conversation on the current state of affairs in the industry has rendered us in that mood of cynical pessimism.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, it's that elephant in the room that you just can't ignore. It's always there. It's all encompassing. It's difficult. It's difficult. Regardless of how difficult it is, you should always, I'm sorry, I know I'm jumping back to this. You should continue to work on your craft. Genuinely, like, continue to make projects. If you are playing games, play a variety of them. You know, play games that you haven't played before. Analyze those games. Even if you don't like the games, like, why don't you like them? You know, you can always be learning. You can always be taking away from your experiences. And listen, even if you end up not getting the position that you really wanted, you're at least setting yourself up to be in a better spot than you would be if you hadn't put in that extra work, if you didn't continue to build out your portfolio.
I think one of the people I talked to said it best. You got to be built for it, or built different, because it's like 60 plus work hours was like a minimum for one of the people I talked to who worked at Rockstar. There was situations of oh man, you know, when will I ever get to see my family again? Or what's Blizzard, but I think I've talked about that to death. Such a fun timeline to be living in right now with all of that, but I mean,
Game crunch has always just been, like, you know, treatment of game developers has always been a real issue. You know, listen, I love Halo just as much as you do, but learning about the development cycle for Halo and Halo 2, genuinely, like, I don't know how those people survived.
Yeah, you just built different.
You just built different. Yeah, I suppose you just have to be. Yeah. It's scary, you know. But like even with all those negatives, it's still what I want to do. It's still what you want to do.
Well, there really isn't anything like game development for me out there. I mean, I know I
Yeah.
could probably get satisfaction working on other entertainment-based media, but there's just something really fun about seeing programmers giving you more than 5 minutes to talk to them, or having a level designer heed your advice on a certain thing because you went ahead and did the research, or being able to help give audio comps for audio people to take inspiration from because you have such a wide breadth of knowledge to kind of work from. And that Connor's producer tip of the day, if you're in production, you don't have to be like the Mona Lisa of knowledge on every single possible fountain of development. But I think like a very basic amount of knowledge could go a long way. Like knowing what Unreal can do versus Unity, for instance. We don't talk about Unity anymore for very obvious reasons. Chris, back in the fucking day when actually no, real quick, this is a side topic, but I remember being in studio when we were working on Gothic Knights, and we chose Unity to be the engine because everybody, the people at the time knew Unity, and Godot was still trying to get some traction around then. My friend pulls up the news, and it's like Unity is now charging you X amount more for the royalties, and we're like, oh well, shit, we're already halfway through development here. You know, it's like, ugh.
Yeah,
But
that whole situation was a massive clusterfuck. I mean, like it's the reason why the project that I was working on at the time, we switched from Unity to Unreal for that. Also for because we just wanted to learn Unreal, right? Especially with how often or how dominant it is in the industry as a whole. Especially with the release of Unreal Engine 5. But I mean, Unity shooting itself in the foot definitely did not help either. It definitely pushed us to operate differently with that. But I mean, beyond that, I completely agree with you. You should have, especially if you're a producer, but also like for like any position, just have like a basic knowledge of these different roles, right? Like what they can do for you, what can this engine do for you, right? Especially since like if you are a producer, that will go so far into helping you with scope for the project. Because I'm sure that this is something that you can attest to, Connor. Nobody on your team knows how to scope a game. They will have some fantastical ideas for the game, very large ideas that will take a ton of time, and explaining it to them that it's a little out of budget and out of the timeline, and also you're expecting something that would take a 300-person team to be done by a 10-person team. It's a lot of people struggle to understand scope, so exposing yourself to the capabilities, but also the limitations of different roles will definitely help you with that.
where the fuck do I even start when I was first starting out and trying to explain scope to people? Oh my god. I mean, really, it sucks to say this, but another, like, the less sexy part about being a producer, people are afraid of me, by the way, that's why they don't want to talk to me, um, is, I mean, sometimes you just gotta break it to them outright, like, your idea sucks, it's not, we can't implement it in the given moment, it's either gotta be reworked or it has to be scrapped. Because,
Yeah,
like, back at Clark, actually, when we were doing studio, I remember I always wanted to have a very clear cut idea of where I wanted to be in regards to like end games. So I remember for Gothic Knights, I'm like, I want a functioning level with this, this, and this, and we accomplished that. So I'm like, okay, I want this and that. Now, obviously, it changes depending on whether or not you have the creative vision or if you don't. Like, there is no one ring to rule them all situations when it comes to this. Literally for everything, but you can like infer here and there, like, okay, this is a good idea and that's not. But honestly, I think the biggest struggle so far as well is a lot of my experience is manufactured. I don't have that industry, like, level of intelligence. I want it, but I'm not going to be able to get it unless I get into the industry proper. And don't get me wrong, we have a wonderful thing going on right now with Project Cyclone Productions. I don't even know if we would classify as indie with the protocols that they're probably doing over here. But then again, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. Everybody's been pulling their weight, and it's been really fun to see people be so spiteful towards the industry that's not even looking at them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know. Like, there's only so many ways that we can really like reword or just try and describe the situation with how, I don't want to say how bad it is. It is bad.
You're fucked.
Like,
we're fucked. Thou is fucked. That's kind of we are coming up to the hour mark. Damn. All right. Well, I guess to kind of like, start on the closing tangent a little bit. We graduated right when everything went to hell, and honestly, it's not fun, but making do with the tools that we have and continuing on in spite of that has not only, one, been like probably really fun, but two, I'm just kind of really hoping at some point somebody realizes that, hey, please hire me. I'm begging. I'm over here. God.
I mean, you're gonna have to be flinging stuff at the windows, and they're still gonna be ignoring you.
I'm slinging monkey shit. No one's looking at me. All right. Well, is there any closing thing you want to say to the nice people?
Network. I don't care like how socially inept you are. Everyone is socially inept. Everyone is scared, but it is so important to network. Go to events. There are plenty of free events that you can go to. There are plenty of tournaments and little things like that happen around, especially if you do like 3D modeling or art stuff. That is a great way to network. Go to events like PAX. Go to events. Well, don't go to events like GDC because that is absurdly overpriced and very inaccessible to newcomers in the industry. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but definitely take full advantage. Walk up to people, just start conversations. Introduce yourself as someone who's looking to jump in the industry. Just do what you can to network. Take full advantage of LinkedIn, something that I definitely do not do enough. But yeah, network, 100%.
All right, well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Connor Shank. This is Christopher Mattarelli. This is Connor Talks Games, and I sincerely hope whoever is listening to this, why are you listening to this? But I digress. Arrivederci, I think they say. I hope you